Thanks for joining today. So these workshops, I've been doing these series for the past few years of different body parts. I did one on the feet in the summer. I've done some on the neck and shoulders before. I'll probably do one on the low back. But I like putting on these workshops because it gives me an opportunity to bring what I do at home, how I take care of myself, to teach you guys, because I don't really get to throw these things in the classes I teach in the Pilates Springboard or the Reformer. All right. For me, I'm a pretty active guy. I like to run and hike and swim. I'm surfing all the time. I climb. I'm also teaching. I'm working with people one-on-one. I'm moving bodies around on the reformers and on the equipment. It's pretty active. So my life is pretty active. And being that active can take quite a toll on my body. So a lot of this stuff, it is Pilates. Some of it I pull from yoga. I pull from strength and conditioning modalities, all the physical therapy, all these things I've kind of figured out, not necessarily figured out, but used to keep my body healthy. Because I just can't think, it's just, we can't just do Pilates or just do kettlebells or just do yoga or stretching. We need to add these different types, like things that we're going to go over today, different exercises to keep our joints healthy and lubricated and moving so that we stay out of pain and we can keep ourselves injury free. Okay. So the hips are a pretty serious part of our body. I've broken this workshop down into 2 days. Okay. You'll get, if you don't do both days, that's fine. All right. You can do just one, you'll get a lot out of it. All right. But there's a lot that goes into the hips. It's the central part of our body. It's located, our pelvis is right below our center of gravity, where a lot of function and dysfunction can occur. And so I really like what I've put together today, because working on the hips will affect not just your hips, but your knees and your low back are very much integrated. The work I'm bringing you today, it's going to help out with a lot of different areas in your body. Okay. So with that being said, let's talk. I just want to hear from both you, Karen and Joni, areas that you're tight or tense or pain that you might experience. Karen, anything in particular going on with you? Hips and low back tight. Scoliosis of the spine. Sure, of course. Sure. Oh, good. Sure. Yeah, totally. So you're saying there's been a decrease in your physical activity? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, what we'll go over today, these are things that you can do at home. All right, you'll also have access to this video, so you can kind of review some of the exercises, but this is gonna, this will help you, encourage you to be more, you'll feel better, and it'll encourage you and inspire you to go to the gym more. All right. Okay, and then Joni, I know you quite well. Welcome. How are things feeling for you? Anything in particular you're trying to focus on your hips?
Currently, fairly well, but it does come and go. For a while, I was working with a physical therapist.
Yeah.
And that helped a bit. I feel like I get really unbalanced.
Sure. Yeah.
Going on. I had a massage a week or so ago, and at the end, while she pulls your legs,
Yeah.
this miracle happened. Like she
Uh-huh.
left side, and it's like, oh, now it's back in place.
You got some traction. Yeah. Oh, and then you stood up and you were feeling pretty good. Yeah.
And then, I always have to take the flexors. So
of course. Yeah.
It comes and goes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So one thing to think about is that with kind of what I'll show you today, these are things we need to be doing constantly. Okay. We're not just going to one day be put back into place. Like this is a practice that we need to do, like someday, like this is a maintenance routine that you'll be able to draw upon when the goal really is to know like, oh, I'm having this sort of pain, or I'm feeling this sort of instability, that I know what I need to do. It's like, oh, I need to do this stretch, or I need to roll this side out. And that's the goal that we're trying. And it can be elusive, the fix that we need for our bodies. So it might require us to explore more and take a little bit more time, but ideally that's what we're trying to do, to empower ourselves to figure out in each scenario what we need to be doing. All right. So feeling good today. All right. Feeling pretty good today. So I like to start these workshops up with some abdominal breathing. All right. I like to do it on the foam roll, particularly the half foam roll, which we all have here. You can do this on a full foam roll as well. So we're going to start with that foam roll lengthwise on the mat, and I'm going to sit facing this direction today. You want to sit at the very bottom end of the foam here, and you want to lie all the way on your back, okay? So the whole spine, the head is resting on the foam roll. You don't want your head to be hanging off the back end. You want your head resting on the foam roll, okay? So everything's on the foam roll. And what we're looking for here is a neutral alignment in our spine, okay? So also, I should have mentioned our knees are bent, our feet are hip width distance, or rather, let's go feet shoulder width distance apart. On this foam roll, our spine is neutral. We're not tucking our hips under, and we're not arching our low back. Our spine is in its neutral, its natural position. So our spine has that S-shaped curvature to it. We want to maintain that curvature there, okay? So let's bring our hands to our hips, all right? And in that neutral, let's tuck the hips under a little bit. You can hollow through your abdominals. You can draw the navel inwards a bit. You can arch the low back a little bit, just playing with that pelvic position here and focusing on not squeezing the glutes, focusing on not gripping with the hamstrings or pushing the hips under with the quads. Work to connect with your abdominals and roll the hips under, arch the low back. When you arch, you can feel those low back muscles turn on. Okay, you can hollow into that abdominal region to tuck the hips under. And then let's hold in neutral there. Let's hold there for a moment. Let's keep our hands on our hips here with our elbows bent, just hovering up off the floor, okay? So in that neutral position here, let's focus on our breath, breathing into the sides of the ribs. So very much like a traditional Pilates style breath, we breathe into those lateral trunk muscles, those oblique muscles here. They run from our ribs to our pelvis, okay? We inhale, breathing into the sides, and then we exhale, work to pull everything inward. So focusing on creating an inner corset in the spine, okay? That corset from the ribs to the hips. You can also draw the pelvic floor inwards a bit, okay? We grip slightly into those pelvic floor muscles. We're drawing in, and again, breathing into the sides, okay? Not letting the ribs thrust forward, okay? Keeping that neutral alignment, and also not letting the belly expand up towards the ceiling so much. Like I said, it's more of a lateral breath, breathing into the sides, okay? So we breathe, we create tension as we breathe in, and then we create even more as we exhale that air out. And what we're looking for is activity in those abdominals, okay? Supporting and stabilizing this neutral. Again, breathing, we don't want to move the spine out of alignment with each breath, okay? We're stabilizing, we're engaging those trunk muscles in this neutral position, okay? And with the elbows floating up off the floor, you can feel that it's a bit unstable. This is an unstable surface we're lying on. It might feel as though gravity is going to pull you off the foam roll. So we work to keep the body absolutely square to the ceiling, okay? So feel that in abdominal engagement, The glutes are quiet, they're relaxed. The hip flexors are relaxed. We're doing the best we can to relax our hips. Okay. Now, keeping that neutral position, keep your hands on your hip bones here, the front of your hips. Let's inhale. Breathe the right knee out to the side. So we drop that right knee out a few inches, and then we exhale to bring that right knee back. Okay. Now inhale the left knee out to the side a few inches, and then exhale that knee back. So can you, as you drop these knees out, maintain a neutral position? So no shifting or compensation in the body. All right, and you don't have to go super far out. We're not looking for mobility here. We're looking for stability and practicing that trunk engagement as we drop these knees out. We alternate legs. It's an inhale. Okay, really breathe into those abdominal muscles. Feel that you have to engage those trunk muscles to support and stabilize your spine on this foam roll. Okay, so something to do. It's good to do this in the morning to get your abdominals warmed up, to get your posture dialed before you start your day. You can breathe into these trunk muscles, adding these knee dropouts. Okay, inhale, one knee out to the side. That foot will flip to face inwards of that moving leg. So you drop the knee out of the right leg, that right foot points in, the bottom of the foot does. We take the left knee out. Okay, so challenging our stability, challenging our position, if anything, and engaging those abdominals. Okay, let's go one more with that left leg. And by now you should feel that you're quite connected to your core. All right, mind you, it's a conscious engagement. It's not necessarily going to happen on its own. Okay, now you can take your elbows to the floor. Let's brace through our abdominals a little bit more. Let's lift that right leg up to what we call a tabletop position in Pilates. That right shin is parallel to the floor. So we activate the hip flexor to lift that leg up. And then we inhale to set it down. Now exhale the left leg up tabletop. All right. Now, can you maintain that neutral as you alternate legs? We inhale, set the foot down, keep the hips and still. All right. We don't want to hike the hips up towards the ribs either. Okay, so keep alternating. Same breath pattern. Watch that your hips don't slide up to the rib cage. Okay, so focusing more on your pelvic position here, your pelvic alignment. Exhale the leg tabletop. Inhale to set it down. Exhale the other leg, and you can progress. This is a little more challenging because we really decrease our base of support here with the leg coming up off the floor as opposed to staying on the floor like you did with the knee dropouts. Okay, you can lift your elbows up off the mat. That's going to challenge you even more. Keeping the body as still as possible, maintaining neutral. Inhale. Okay, so watch as you pull the leg up that the hips don't tuck under. Okay, if the hips tuck under, it might mean we're using our quads, our hip flexors too much. We're not disassociating properly. And as you take the foot down, watch that your back doesn't arch. Okay, so this is requiring a bit more stability through the pelvis and spine, of course, lifting that leg up. We'll just go one more each. Okay. You can even, I like to float my hands above my shoulders here with the palms facing each other, just to create that sense of squareness to the ceiling. Okay, if I were to draw lines from my shoulders to the ceiling, in order to draw lines from my pelvis, my hip bones to the ceiling, they'd stay parallel. All right, one more right leg. Inhale, one more left leg. Okay, now set the foot down or both feet down. Let's come on off the foam roll. All right, let's set this half foam roll to the side. Okay, and let's stay on our back here. So just lie on your back for a moment here and notice how you feel. All right, knees will be bent, heels in line with our sit bones, 8 or so inches away. Maybe we feel a little taller. Maybe our pelvis, our sacrum feels a little more loose, relaxed. Okay, we just created some space in our spine. By engaging those abdominals in that way with the breath, that diaphragmatic breath, we can actually create space between the vertebra and our spine and more opening in the pelvis actually. So that's a bit of a hip opener in itself, okay? So from here, we're gonna get a couple types of bridging here, all right? And the bridges, it's important that we activate our glutes and or rather the objective here is we get the glutes to activate and the quads to stretch a bit. So let's take a breath in. Now exhale, very familiar Pilates exercise here. We pull in with our abdominals, let's tuck the hips under. We round the low back in the mat and let's begin to lift our hips up into our bridge. We're gonna do a few repetitions of this traditional Pilates pelvic curl here. We elevate the hips up. We keep that tuck consistent, all right, meaning we're creating length in the low spine, okay? The glutes are active, the hamstrings are active, and we're creating the sensation of the hips rolling under, okay? And as the hips roll under, like so, those quads, those hip flexors get a stretch. We pause for a breath in at the top. And then we exhale, we maintain that tuck to roll the spine down one piece at a time, okay? So really stay hollow through your abdominals. Work each vertebra into the mat. Round that low back into the floor. And then rock your hips back to neutral. We're going to do 2 more like that. Or rather 3 more. We'll do 3. So we go back to neutral, just like our half foam roll position. Exhale, tucking the hips under. We imprint, flattening, elevating the hips. Okay, so those glutes kick on. We elevate the hips. We don't let our knees splay out to the sides. We keep that tuck, and we get a stretch in the front of the hips. Not letting the knees splay out to the sides. We elevate. We hold here for a breath in. Keeping that tuck, and then we exhale to roll down. So keeping that tuck, really create that length in the spine. Working each vertebra into the mat. Not letting the knees splay out to the sides. Okay, 2 more. We'll breathe in, inhale. Exhale again. Hollowing, imprinting, meaning that low back flattens into the mat. Okay, the glutes turn on to lift the hips, but feel that the abdominals are working along with the hamstrings. So the abdominals tuck the hips under, the hamstrings pull the hips under as well. So they work together. And as a result, we get a stretch in the front of those hips, okay? Pause, take a deep breath in, we inhale. And then exhale, we roll the spine down, okay? We're gonna go for 1 more. Finding our neutral and also warming things up a bit before we get into our work today. We inhale, again, exhale last time. We elevate, all right? Another good exercise to do to start your day before maybe getting into some heavy lifting or activity, athletic activity. Let's hold at the top, we breathe in, okay? And then exhale to roll the spine down. So very important we get our glutes to activate to help support our pelvis and spine. Okay, we work each vertebra into the mat. All right, and then we hold in neutral. Let's hold neutral here. We're gonna do 4 more bridges, but just a slightly different variation. Let's keep neutral in the pelvis. Keep that position, we inhale. Now exhale, engage your glutes, keep the abs active, just elevate the hips, maintaining neutral. So it's more of a hinge. The hips press up to the sky, okay? And then we inhale down. So the difference here is we performed an articulation in the spine, where here we keep the spine fairly stable, all right? And then it's just the pelvis that hinges up, okay? The spine stays relatively neutral. Challenging your glutes a little differently. We still keep the abdominals active. We exhale to lift, inhale to lower, hinging down. We'll try 2 more here. And then exhale, we hinge up. Let's elevate the hips, keeping the abs in so that abdominals are working more in a stabilizing fashion, isometrically, as we would say. They're stabilizing the pelvis rather than dynamically tucking the hips under, okay? Now, one more. Make that sacrum flat to the mat, and then exhale, hinge back up, elevating the hips. And we don't compress the low back, okay? We don't arch the low back. It's in that neutral throughout. And then inhale, hinge the hips down, sacrum to the floor. All right, let's loosen the spine up a little bit more. Just take your arms to a T, cross your right leg over the left, and just bring your knees to the left for a quick twist here so we could get that SI joint to let go a little bit, that mid spine to stretch. Taking our knees to the left, you could take your left hand on that right knee there and give yourself a twist. We also keep the right shoulder blade on the floor. Okay, giving ourselves a nice twist in the spine. And then we come back to center. We uncross that leg. Let's go left over right and just take our knees to the right. And you could take your right hand. I like to apply some pressure down onto that thigh. Okay. So what we just did was a good warm up for those abdominals, getting the abdominals, the breath to integrate, to create stability in our alignment, okay, and also get the glutes active a bit. We're sitting a lot during the day. The glutes, they shut off, they turn off, and they don't work, okay? And the hip flexors, as a result, get tight. So important that we activate those glutes. Okay, we'll get more into that as we move forward. So let's take the arms out to a T. Use your trunk muscles to return your legs back. Let's uncross our legs and we'll come up to seated here, okay? So if you look at your sheet, your handout, we just went through those first three here, or that first block there, that core breath work, that warm up there, the half foam roll, the knee dropouts, leg lifts, pelvic curls, glute bridges. Okay, that's a block there. That's something you can do. You can just do that in the morning. You can do that at the end of the day. You can throw that in there whenever you need. Okay, and we're going to move on to the next block is our mobility one. Okay, so introducing some mobility to the pelvis. We're going to do a few dynamic and static mobilizations here, stretches that we hold in place and stretches that we can move forward and back, okay, to loosen things up. So let's get into that low kneeling hip flexor release. So pretty basic. I'm going to face this direction. Okay, let's start with either leg. You're going to go into a tall kneeling. If you need a knee pad, you can grab one there. You can also fold your mat over, all right, if you need. Okay, but starting on that left leg, let's take the right foot forward, okay? All right, so that right foot is going to be forward of that right knee, okay? So let's keep the spine upright. So visualize that that half foam roller is on your spine right now. We're in neutral, okay? All right, so from here, let's start to bend that right knee. We're just going to travel the spine forward a few inches, but keep a bit of a tuck in the pelvis. Don't let the low back hyperextend. You should feel a bit of a stretch, pretty basic, opening up that left hip. And now let's push back to return. So let's actually take our right hand to our belly here and our left hand to our low back. And you want to feel that those spaces here remain consistent. We bend that right knee, the pelvis travels forward, okay? Stretching that left hip out. Okay, what you don't want to happen is the spine to arch. Okay, we just lost our foam roll alignment there. Okay, so this requires that you use your abdominals as you mobilize, if that makes sense. Okay, if we lose our abdominal support, we're just gonna lose our alignment, and we're not going to create a true stretch in our hip. Okay, we're not going to create that sustainable length in these hip flexors. So we bend, we keep the tuck. I like to visualize that I'm reaching my tailbone towards the floor. Okay, maybe you can go a little bit more forward and back, okay? or rather travel forward, we're mobilizing a little deeper. Okay, I like to do these before activity. I don't like to hold stretches before an athletic activity. I'll mobilize dynamically like what we're doing now. Okay, now let's go about 3/4 of the way. All right, now hold that foam roll alignment, that neutral alignment. Let's take our right hand on our right knee. Let's take the left arm overhead and let's tilt the spine to our right. Okay, so we can add a little lateral flexion. So we open up that left side a bit. Okay, we open up the hip flexor along with some low back muscles. We won't get into these muscles too much in this workshop, so that's more about the low back. Okay, keep the position. Let's come on back, keep your balance, and we'll switch sides. Okay, so other leg comes up, left leg forward, right knee on the mat. Remember that foot is forward of the knee there, and we're tall, we're upright in our position. Okay, so activate those abs. Let's bend the left knee. Let's take the hips forward a few inches. Okay, maybe we're tight. You don't have to go super far. And then we push back. Okay, so one hand, I'll switch hands. One hand kind of below our navel here, the other at our sacrum, just feeling that those 2 points, those 2 landmarks remain stable. All right, and we return. Okay, again, think of a little bit of a tuck. Those abdominals are active, supporting our posture, maybe going a little deeper forward and back. Okay, bring the body back. Let's do 1 or 2 more. We'll do 2 more. Getting that right side to really release here and back. Let's do 1 more, maybe 3/4 of the way forward. We'll hold, left hand on the left knee. Let's take the right arm overhead, keeping your balance. Let's side bend the spine to our left. So I like to hold the hand overhead like a halo here with the palm facing the ceiling. Getting this whole right side hip flexor to open up. Thinking of length, really reaching up and over. And then we return, we come on back, okay? So pretty fundamental hip flexor stretch, good thing to do during the day if you're seated a lot, if you're zooming. It's a very functional way to stretch. And just I'd like to emphasize that you really have to be mindful of your position, okay? If we just relax and not integrate our abdominals into it, okay, we're just pulling the muscle apart forward and back. If we keep those abdominals on, we keep that position, we're functionally lengthening and creating lasting mobility there, okay? Now, next is our kneeling deep squat hip mobilization. We'll actually start with a modification using the foam roll, all right? So I'll face this direction. It's gonna be a kind of a hands and knees like position. I want you to grab the foam roller with your right hand on the very end of the foam roller here. So you're gonna need to push the foam roller out to the side a bit there. So your right hand is there. So the reason we do that is we wanna place our right foot to the outside of that foam roll. And you can roll a foam roll a little bit, okay, away from you. Be active in your shoulders, pressing that foam into that foam roller, keeping those shoulder blades stable. So you're also, it's good we mobilize the front of the hip first because this would have been kind of hard to get into, all right? But what we're looking to do is mobilize this leg, this right leg into a squat-like position. So if you notice, you're more or less in the bottom of a squat. Okay, a squat's a very functional movement we need in everyday life. We want to be mobile and stable in that squat position. So take your time. I like to settle into my hips so that I can get a tall alignment in my spine. I'm tall. Okay. Now it's important that the ball of the big toe, the right foot, stays in contact with the floor. Okay. You can even take your right hand and place it there if you'd like. I like to do that. And you're going to reach that right knee out to the side without the ball, that foot lifting up off the floor. So you'll feel that right inner thigh stretch a little bit and then bring the knee back. Okay. Again, reach that knee out to the side, always working to create length in the spine as you reach the knee out and return. Okay. Keep the ball, the big toe on the floor. We do that so we have stability in both our feet. Okay, we have a more or less a neutral ankle, okay, and a neutral pelvis. All right, we want stability in both our ankles, our feet, and creating mobility within the hip joint, okay? And then bring that knee back. Let's walk it back. Okay, so you might have felt a stretch in that inner thigh, okay? And also maybe an activation in the glute. So we'll get into glute clams in a bit, all right? It's basically what we're doing is a glute clam. We're activating that hip abductor. So we'll switch sides. We slide the foam roll to the other side. Let's take that left foot to the left side of the foam here, okay? That right leg's behind you. So take a moment, just settle into that alignment here, that flat back position. The right leg is long. We're tall in our position here, okay? So that's number one. Again, that foam roller is on our back, okay? We want to feel as if we're lying on our back on that foam. Let's take the left hand, really try to keep your position, left hand on the ball of the foot here. Okay, so this is kind of my strange side. I need to kind of sink into that hip a little bit more as I reach that left knee out to the side, keeping the ball, the big toe rooted into the mat, okay? All right, and we're focusing on keeping our neutral posture in our spine and our foot. The ball, the big toe stays rooted to the floor there, and I'm reaching. That right knee is reaching out to the side. You might feel that deep inner thigh stretch a bit. And also that outer left hip, that glute is turning on, okay? Creating space within our hip joints so that our glutes can properly activate. If we can get those glutes to properly activate, we're on our way to less pain and more stability and mobility, all right? And again, this is a dynamic stretch, just like what we did kneeling in that low kneeling, okay? So we're creating some sustainable length. Another good exercise to do before athletic activity, okay? And then we come back to both knees here. All right, we can push that foam roller away. So that's a good question. Yes, please.
So on both sides, I felt it. So when I move my leg out, I have to feel more.
You're feeling it more on the right. Yes, yes, yeah. It's definitely a hip flexor mobilization as well. But you know, we're trying to. You'll note we're going to go into the squat at the very end. Okay, basically what we're doing is mobilizing. We're focusing on that right hip or that opposite leg. So, yeah, I mean, you may feel it. You might be already loose in the inner thighs. You know, maybe it's not going to be a you know, kind of a golden nugget for you stretch. But still, it's a good thing to practice before activity, just practicing. Is that making sense? You're feeling more in the, but yeah, it's a deep hip flexor stretch on that other side. Okay. You have any questions, Karen, so far? That felt good? Yeah. So yeah, some people are going to find kind of different stretches, you know, it's going to, certain things are going to work for them more than others. So this is another one. I know Joni's familiar with this one. This is going to kind of take what we just did a little further. This is a kneeling adductor stretch again. So I'll face this direction. Our hips are square forward. So very similar to that first one we did, only now we're kind of moving laterally. So we're going to take that right leg out to the side, and I got my right foot in line with my left knee. Okay, so it's going to open up both adductors. And again, in this position, you want that foam roller spine alignment, okay? So that's what you want to think about. So maybe you're biasing towards a little bit of a tilt in the pelvis just to keep the abs and spine aligned. So Karen, maybe take your right foot out a little further away just to create space because we're going to be moving along this plane. So this opposite arm, our right arm is going to push into that thigh a little bit, okay, pushing it back behind us. So this is kind of a combination of the first two stretches we did. We're going to bend this right knee towards that right foot, okay, and actively pushing into that thigh. You're going to feel a stretch on this bottom inner thigh as well as one on that right thigh there, that inner thigh. And then we'll push back, okay, keep the abs in, the trunk stays stable. We take the pelvis to the right, okay, so the pelvis, it's going to go up and down, but we're thinking of side to side, this lateral motion here. And if you could glance at your knee, make sure that knee is traveling along the kind of the trajectory of where those toes are going, okay? Pushing into that thigh, mobilizing that hip there, both hips here, keeping the abs active, just like on that half foam roll, okay? And maybe some glute work, you're feeling that right glute turn on, okay? That we're basically lunging onto that right leg. And maybe maybe not so much on the left, but really that right leg, we're kind of holding that position. So that's good. We're making progress if we can activate that glute. Because we want less inner thigh. We want this inner thigh to be stabilizing less and more stability in the glute, okay? Let's try the other side, okay? I think it's good to start. Think of this right knee in line with your right shoulder, left foot in line with the right knee there. We're upright, we're tall. We're pushing into that thigh with the left arm. We're traveling to our left now. Okay, so this is my tight side. So I'm going to take it slow, getting into it. I'm using my arm. I'm active in my upper body, pushing that knee to the wall behind me and returning. And it can be small. Listen to your body here. Doesn't have to be a big range of motion. Okay. Also watch that your ribs don't puff forward. That's a compensation too of tight hips. Okay. Keep the rib cage down. So you can put one hand on your low back just to feel that the low spine isn't arching, or you can put your one hand on the rib cage. Okay. So it's good to use your other hand. You can also to kind of cue where you want stability. It's also good to keep it on the hip. We don't want our hips. I haven't been talking about it too much, but our hips can kind of tilt side to side. We want that pelvis nice and level. We're pushing into that right knee with that, or the left knee with the left arm. We return. We'll do one more. We push, lunging, lunging, lunging. Okay. And then back. Okay. So we've really loosened up those hips. Okay. All right. Taking it slow, keeping our core active as we move through these. So that was our first mobility routine here. Strength one, we're going to do some hip internal and external rotation. So we've done these in springboard class. Joni's aware of these. Okay, so it's important before we get into those larger muscles of the pelvis that we work the smaller muscles of our hip joints. Much like in our shoulders, we have these rotator cuff muscles. Okay, they can get weak and tight. We have muscles very similar to those within our hip joints here. So we're going to come on to our left side here. All right, and we're going to bend our knees into this figure four position. So we're going to start with that right leg. Okay, we're going to work the internal rotator of that right hip. So let's rotate our upper body just a little bit away from the leg here. So you'll want to square your right shoulder towards the floor a little bit. And what you're going to do, let's lift the right foot up off the floor without that knee lifting up off the mat. So you can even take one hand on the thigh here just to feel that the thigh isn't lifting. So what's happening is that right hip is internally rotating. And also watch that your hips aren't rotating. That's going to be a compensation for weak or tight hips. We keep the body still. Okay, we lift the foot up and down. And Joni's doing the progression here. It's okay. You can lift the foot up, and with that foot lifted, you can straighten the leg out a little bit, pull the heel in, and set it to the floor. Okay, we lift the foot up, straighten the leg out, pull the heel back in as close as you can to your sit bone, and set it to the floor. We lift and straighten. This is a great exercise to do before activity if you're a runner, hiker. Getting these muscles to turn on, we're going to create more stability and mobility within the hip joints so that our larger muscles don't have to compensate so much, or we don't have to compensate by putting our bones out of alignment. Okay, I'm stable in my upper body, getting that strength. You're going to add ankle weights to this as a progression. Okay, all right. So Joni, I would just say, lift the foot up as high as you can first, and then straighten the leg. And then lift the foot up as high as you can first, bring the heel in to the mat, okay? Now let's straighten that right leg long. Let's open up our body a little bit more. We're gonna work the bottom leg. So we just did internal rotation. Okay, now we're going to do external. We're going to go in the opposite direction with this bottom leg. So here to do that, we lift the foot up, okay, by keeping the knee on the floor, keeping the trunk active. Ideally, we're in that foam roll position again in the spine. Set the foot down, lifting it up, working the external rotators of the hip. You can progress it. We lift the foot up, we take the leg out, we pull the heel back in and down, okay? So this is not only good prehab for our hips, but also our knees. So a lot of knee pain, a lot of knee dysfunction as a result of poor hip mechanics, weakness in our hips, okay? We keep the knee on the floor. And it's also going to be tempting to want to compensate with the foot. Let's try to keep the foot out of it, okay? Try to isolate the movement in the hip joint, okay? So try to relax that ankle. That's the other workshop, the foot workshop, all right? So keeping the ankle fairly relaxed. It's going to help isolate the hip joint a bit more. Maybe you're feeling that glute on the bottom leg turn on, okay? That's good. That's good. We're externally rotating through there. All right, keep the trunk active. One more, one more. Ooh, I'm feeling some burning there. And relax down. So you should feel it, yeah, some deep hip, you've heard of pain since things like hip bursitis or piriformis syndrome. We're strengthening those smaller muscles, okay? Let's switch sides. So let's start with that left leg. So we just did external rotation on the left leg. We're gonna do internal rotation on the left leg. So remember with this one, we bias towards a slight rotation to that right arm there. Good posture. Let's lift that left leg up, take it away. We'll just go right into the full version for time's sake. Okay. Taking the leg out, keeping the abs in, trying to relax that ankle. Notice the difference if when that ankle is relaxed, we can isolate more work within the hip joint, okay? Take the leg out long, pull the heel in, set it to the floor, lift, straighten. That knee remains in contact with the floor throughout, okay? If we lift the leg up, we're gonna compensate by using too much glute. Okay, we'll just do a couple more here, extending and returning. Last one, we lift the foot up, straighten the leg out, bring the heel back in, set it to the floor. Let's straighten that left leg long, okay? That left hand can go on the right thigh here. Let's work that external rotation here. So keep that part. We're kind of in a side plank position, so check your position, check your alignment. Let's lift the right leg up. We straighten the right leg out long. We bring the heel in, set it to the floor. We lift the foot up, getting that external rotation in the hip to the mat there, okay? Lifting up, extending, keeping the core active, bringing the heel in to the mat, maintaining alignment, maintaining our position, and returning, okay? Getting some burning into those small muscles within our hip joint here, okay? Out, back in and down. Let's just do 3 more. Okay. And down 2. We lift the foot up. All right, back in and down. Just one more, keeping that ankle relaxed. Taking the leg out, just getting some good burning within the hip and to the floor there. All right, getting those small muscles dialed in. So that's strength 2 or strength 1. We're gonna get into strength 2. Okay, is that any questions with that? It's a little awkward. Yeah, but you're feeling quite, yeah, so you're strengthening those small muscles within the hip joint. We're gonna get into get more into the superficial muscles now in the strength part 2. Okay, yes.
This way it feels so awkward. This feels
Easier. Yeah. The internal rotation. Yeah.
I don't know.
So, I mean, does it feel bad, like hard on your knee at all? It's awkward. Yeah. You know, it's a different range. It's actually, we're working the range that we kind of don't want to go, actually. Like our body gets tight, our hips internally rotate, okay? So we're still exploring that range of motion, and it's good, it's not good, it's good to explore different ranges of motion. So it might feel awkward because you know you are tight, we are tight in those muscles. Those muscles can get quite short, those internal rotators. So it's okay to strengthen them and just explore what our muscles can do. So as long as, you know, we're providing balance, it's, you know, we're doing external rotation as well. So yeah, it can feel awkward, definitely. And it's something that we can practice and still throw in. With that, the less awkward it'll be, yeah, the more we do it. And it's good to do, even with your shoulders, it's important to strengthen internally. We want to strengthen externally. We want strength in all ranges of motion, basically, is what we're trying to do. So it's, I mean, but that, what we just did, it's just, they're small movements, but they're pretty potent and powerful. You know, ultimately, you're going to connect to your glutes a lot more, which is what we're going to get into. So this first exercise, any other questions with those? Let's get into it with the hamstring release and glute hip extension. Okay, so we're going to grab our band. I've taught this one. This is part of the knee workshop as well. Okay, so let's see. What you want to do, you'll want to be able to see me. So Joni, you're going to lie on your back, and you can do your right leg and you can do your left leg. Actually, you know what? You can do your right leg as well because you can see me in the mirror. So let's lie on our back. What we're going to do, or rather, let's lace the band first into our right foot. Okay, so we want to go, it's very important we loop the band around the ball of the foot here, okay? And let's hold that right leg up into a hamstring stretch here, okay? So doing our best to keep a neutral foam roll position in our pelvis, what I want you to do is bend that right knee to the right shoulder, towards the right shoulder, and then straighten the leg out, okay? So very common to have tight hamstrings, okay? And if you notice, we're bending that knee in a similar way to that squat position we were in earlier, okay? We're not bending it straight to our chest, we're taking the knee to our shoulder. So we're kind of doing a single leg squat here. We're mobilizing that hamstring in this range of motion here, okay? Let's just do a couple more. All right, we're not doing a static hold here because we don't want our hamstrings to be too loose before we get into physical activity. Let's do one more. Okay, straighten the leg out. Now hold, bring the leg without hiking the hip. Bring the leg to the left across the midline of the body. And don't let that, it's going to be tempting to hike the hip up. If you hike that right hip up, you're going to internally rotate that right hip flexor. And what's going to happen is you're not going to get the stretch we're looking for. So try to turn the hip out a little bit. With that leg to the outside of the body, let's bend and straighten, okay? Keep that right hip fairly low, bend the knee and straighten the leg. So you might feel tight in this outer right hamstring here, okay? You can neutralize the ankle a bit by pushing through the ball of the big toe. Notice a difference there, okay? If that ankle's neutral, we're creating more stability through the ankle. It's going to require more mobility in the hamstring there, if that makes sense. So just notice how that creates a different stretch when you try to level the ankle out, reaching the ball of the big toe to the ceiling, similar to that low kneeling stretch we did earlier, okay? So now we're going to grab both ends of the band with the right hand and we're going to flip onto our left side here, okay? So both ends of the band with the right hand, get some good tension in the band. Let's place that right hand into the floor here, okay? Both legs are in a tabletop position. So we're kind of in a side-lying squat position, okay? I want space between the left side rib cage, the left side oblique, and the floor here. And what we're doing is we're extending that right leg long. So Karen, you're gonna wanna pin this band into the floor here, okay? There you go. And then we straighten the leg out as if we were lunging on that leg. So we hinge into the hip joint. Think of that foam roll still on your spine here. Maintaining neutral, we inhale, exhale out. And the reason we keep space between our left side and the floor is that we want to maintain neutral. If we just slouch into our left side, we put our body in a side bend. We don't want to train our body in a bent position, a side bent position. We want to be neutral, okay? So think of this as that mobility we did earlier with the foam roll and that low kneeling, okay? That's kind of the trajectory where that knee is going, okay? We're extending, okay? We stretch the inner thighs, we open the hips. We're now ready to get some strength in that right leg, and you can point through the ball, the big toe a bit again, all right? That's gonna help us integrate the ankle, which will help us integrate that glute, all right? And it's a movement from the hip joint. The hip extends, the knee just goes along for the ride, all right? And out, we should feel some burning in that right glute. Couple more. Extending, extending, extending. Last time, last time. Wow. Heavy duty work in that hip, okay? Ooh. Did we feel some glute work there? Okay, that's heavy duty. That's some good strengthening there, okay? All right, wow. Any questions with that? We'll do the other side. All right, so just notice kind of there's patterns in what we're doing. Remember that kneeling hip flexor, hip stretch where we were taking the knee out to the side? We were mobilizing the hip to prepare for a movement much like that, okay? So let's flip side. I'm just gonna change directions so I'll be able to face the camera. Let's go left leg, wrapping the band around the ball of the foot here. We hold that left leg up. Okay, we got some good tension in the band. And here we bend that left knee to the left shoulder, and then we straighten that left leg out. Okay, we bend and extend. So it's a dynamic stretch here, meaning we're moving the joint. Okay, we're not just holding in a static position. We're mobilizing dynamically, okay? Extending, bending, and we're focusing on that hamstring. Let's hold the leg out long, bring the leg across the midline of the body to your right, okay? And then bend that left knee to the left shoulder and straighten that left leg out. So we go dynamic in this outer hamstring stretch, okay? These outer hamstrings get locked up and tight if our hips are in poor alignment. We're gonna feel a different stretch here. And again, focus on that ankle position, pointing through the ball of the big toe, breathing, straightening out, keeping the trunk active as well. Abs engaged for 2. And 1. Now let's grab both ends of the band, this time with the left hand, okay? Lying on our right side, let's pin that band into the floor. Let's find our foam roll position, okay? Right leg's at a tabletop. Let's extend, keep that foam roll alignment. Now straighten your left leg long. Hinge into the hip joint, bring that thigh back in, and then exhale to straighten. So, and still pushing through the ball of the big toe. So Karen, really think of, so it's some arm work here, but you really want to push that band into the floor with the hand, just so that we get the appropriate resistance we need. Extending, keeping the abs in, not letting the hips hike either, okay? We keep the hips as level as possible, okay? Feel that we're creating power through the hip joint here, okay? And this is different. It's not as much load as a lunge, but it's different. It's open chained, meaning our foot's not in contact with the ground. We're pushing into some floating resistance here. but still focus on your stability. We'll do a few more here, extending out. All right. One side's going to be tighter or more challenging than the other. Let's go one more out and back in. Let's take that band out. All right. Okay. Felt some work there. Okay. So that's working the larger glutes, the gluteus maximus. It's very important that we have strength there. So now moving on, side lying banded hip abduction. Okay. So we have those powerful glute muscles that extend the hips. We also have smaller muscles that open the hips a bit, okay? But those hip opening muscles are also important. It's important we strengthen them because not only do they open our hips, but they stabilize the pelvis, they stabilize our knees. So these are our outer glute muscles here. We're gonna take our band, let's bring our feet and knees together, and we're gonna make a bow with this band, okay? Feet and knees glue together. Tie the band somewhat tight around those knees, just above, okay? And we're gonna lie back down on our left side this time. We're gonna strengthen those outer hips now, okay? The hip abductors. I'm gonna start just a few reps here with our knees bent and our heels in line with our tailbone. So we did a similar range of motion here, okay, when we were doing the internal and external rotation, but now we're going to recruit that outer glute a bit more. So lift that thigh straight up, the heels stay glued together and return. Okay, so this movement is similar to what we were doing on our back with those knee dropouts, okay? So visualize that foam roller is on your back again. Only this time, right, we're actively lifting the thigh out instead of dropping it to the side. So feel that outer hip, get that power and return, okay? Again, another great exercise to help with our knees, knee pain. Keep the trunk active, almost like we're in a side plank, okay? Now bring the legs together, bring them in line with your hips now. We're gonna progress it a little bit. Let's lift that whole right leg straight up. The heels detach, and then we return. Lifting up and down, okay? Oh, both knees are bent at this tabletop-like position. I should have mentioned that. You wanna bring your knees up so that they're perpendicular to you. So you can probably pull your knees up even further. So think of a 90-degree bend at your hips. Yes. So we lift that whole thigh up and return, okay? So also be aware that your bottom leg is working as well. It's stabilizing. This is similar to what we do in springboard class when we're standing. The same thing's happening when we're practicing our spring-loaded hip abduction, okay? It's the leg that's supporting us is also working. I'm actually feeling more work in my bottom leg than my top leg, okay? Let's switch sides. All right, so one key thing here you should notice, all right, when we're doing the leg lifts here, especially what we just did, we don't want the hip to internally rotate and strengthen. So we wanna lead with the thigh, or the knee rather, or keep the foot in line with the knee. Does that make sense? We don't want to, we're gonna strengthen some muscles we don't wanna strengthen in this exercise, okay? So something to think about when we do this next set here. We're gonna lie this time on our right side. So checkpoints here, our heels are in line with our tailbone. There's space between our right side and the floor. Pelvis is still, let's lift that left knee up and return. Okay, the left knee lifts. All right, and return. I'm already quite fatigued here. Okay, we've done a lot of work. We lift that thigh up, keep the abs in. So important that we stabilize our trunk, our foundation with those abdominals. Okay, we'll do 2. And 1. Now pull the knees up. Let's line the knees up in that tabletop position. Again, it's this right angle, this 90-degree angle in our hips. Let's lift that top thigh straight up
and down. Legs together. We lift up and down. Keeping our posture, keeping our position. We lift and lower. Keeping tall, we want length in our spine. Getting those outer hips to strengthen. Okay. We don't want space, or we want space between our right side and the floor. Just maintaining neutral as if we were standing. Let's go for 2. And then 1 more. Oof. All right, that's a lot of work. Let's come on up. We've worked all those glutes now. Let's untie that bow. We'll balance it out with just some basic inner thigh work, okay? Sideline inner thigh work, okay? So what we'll do there, yeah, quick, go for it, go for it. Yeah, if you need to use the restroom, go for it, okay? So we'll undo that band. I think that's it for the band. All right, we'll set the band aside. So let's lie back down on our left side this time. Come on down. All right. And let's bend, let's grab, see if you can grab that right ankle with the right foot. You're gonna place the foot just in front of your hip here, okay? Find some space, once again, space between the left side and the floor. Keep your alignment, just lift the bottom leg up and bring it back down, okay? Just lifting that leg up, we get some activation in that inner thigh to balance out that hip work we've been doing, okay? We've also been mobilizing the hips, this muscle a lot. Do your best to keep neutral in your position. Just lifting, simple lifts. Relax the ankle. Lifting, this is our adduction. So we did abduction just now. Now we're focusing on adduction, okay? The leg lifts and lowers. Couple more here. And now lift up, let's hold the leg up and then just take the leg back an inch or 2 and then take the leg forward an inch or 2, okay? Bringing it back, bringing it forward, really feeling some burning in that inner thigh. Okay, 1 more back, 1 more forward, and set it to the floor, okay? Getting those inner thighs to activate just to create balance in the body. Let's lie on our right side now. You can reach for that left ankle with the left hand. And from there, let's lift the right leg up and down. Inner thigh activity here to the floor. We lift up and down, keeping our position, lifting that thigh up to the floor, moving with the breath, keeping the hips still, that thigh lifts, we return. Okay, now 1 more, let's lift that leg up, let's hold that leg up, take the leg back a couple inches, and then take it forward a couple inches, okay? Try to relax through the quadriceps, try to relax through other muscles around the hips, just focusing on that inner thigh work, so important. Strengthen these hip muscles as well, in addition to our glutes. Okay, just getting some activity, some range of motion in this thigh with the inner thigh working. Last one back, and then relax that leg down, okay? All right, any questions with those? Pretty simple, getting the inner thighs to turn on, okay? So a few things here. We're gonna get through this mobility part 2 using some myofascial release techniques using the foam roll and the lacrosse ball that we all, looks like Karen, your lacrosse ball rolled away. It's behind you. We'll use that in just a moment though. Let's get our full foam roller. All right, so this first foam rolling technique, we're gonna focus on a small muscle here. It's called our TFL. Okay, it's this muscle that's just on the outside of our hip. It's not on the front of the hip exactly. It's kind of, so you have your outer hip bones here. It's just slightly above and forward here, all right? So you'll probably notice it pretty quick. It gets really tight, all right? It's a hip flexor. that we want nice and loose. So we're gonna so the best way to find it is put that outer hip bone into the foam roller, come on down to your elbows, and then roll your body down. I got my hips slightly squaring to the floor a bit. So from that bony landmark there, let's go take the body down. The foam roll is gonna roll up slightly. All right, you're gonna feel that small muscle there. And let's keep that leg that we're rolling. You'll wanna bend, keep that knee on the mat and just keep that leg relaxed. Okay, so we don't want any hip activation here. And we're just gonna, it's a few inches up and down. You can kind of explore. I'm gonna open up to the left a little bit. I'm gonna square down to the mat. It's this small muscle group here. Does that feel tight on anybody? Yes. So I feel that the foam roller really gets into that muscle best. Okay, getting that pressure there. Just taking deep breaths. You can rock forward, you can rock back. This muscle likes to, it gets bunched up with the glute. It wants to do the work of the glute. So when really it doesn't do that too much. Okay. So rolling this outer hip muscle here. Okay. Breathing, getting some good pressure. Rocking forward and back. You can bend that knee, straighten the knee. So this muscle was working when we were doing that internal hip. This is why that exercise might feel awkward, is if this muscle's tight and locked up, okay? So let's come up, we'll switch sides. I'm gonna face the other direction. Okay. Get into that. It's just kind of more of a regenerative part of the workshop, something you can do towards, I like to do the rolling at the end of the day, just hitting certain areas that are tight from teaching or running and such, hiking. Okay. One side will feel different. Take your time, just exploring this region. Again, you can start at that outer hip, that bony protrusion here, that it's called our greater trochanter, that outer hip bone. Make your way up from there. Okay, you can rotate back and forth, rocking side to side. You can hold, you can find, or if you find a tense spot, just hold it there. Okay. Up and down, side to side. And it's okay if one feels very different than the other. Okay, just taking deep breaths in, just a couple more moments here. And we'll get into some standing work, okay? All right, everyone, let's come on up. Let's go up to standing. Let's put that foam roll aside and just see how you feel after that, everything we've done so far. Okay, you can kind of see if we've loosened some things in the hips a bit. Maybe you feel a little different, maybe a little taller. We've gotten some strength, maybe some space in our low back, okay? Let's take our lacrosse ball and let's all move to the wall here. So find a space on the wall, okay? Okay, so you can come on over here, Karen. We're gonna really work into those outer glute muscles. So those muscles that we were working when we were abducting, okay? The hips, they can get locked up and tight. So the best way to do this against the wall, you wanna, let's start with the right hip here. Let's put weight into the left leg, okay? And also, I should have said, you should maybe grab your foam roller, okay? You can use that foam roller, or you can grab part of the springboard here, something to help balance you here. Let's roll into that outer hip. So I'll just to show everyone on the screen here, we want to pin the ball into the side of the glute here. And we want to roll side to side, up and down, forward and back a little bit. So so you can use that foam roll to help support. We want
I actually like to grip some of the hooks on the springboard for balance, okay? And we're just rolling out that outer hip, okay? So this area can get really tight. Very important we roll these muscles out. Okay, just breathing in and out. Joni, are you feeling some tightness there? You can get, yeah, that high glute region is key. Don't be afraid to explore lower down. All right, the progress, you can even lie on this wall. That's quite intense, but you can lay on it. But it's important to strengthen these muscles, but also very important that we release them. Because if they get too tight, then bending over, picking things up off the floor, squatting is going to become, it's going to force your spine to flex more than necessary. You're going to put more pressure into your back than into your hip joints, okay? So let's get some good release work here. All right, let's switch sides, okay? Put weight into the right leg. Let's relax that left leg. Okay, same region here. Yeah. Taking a moment. Even go towards the back a little bit of the glute. I always find some tightness through there. Yeah, you can go up and down, side to side, really putting some pressure into these muscles here. All right. It's going to help with our low back. It's going to help create space in our low back. It's also going to feed some slack into our hamstrings. So if you get tight in your hamstrings, it's a really good idea to roll these muscles out. It's going to help create some more slack down into your hamstrings, okay? Getting into these muscles here, breathing in and out. Okay. All right. So from there, you come up to standing, see how that feels. I know we could probably hang out there for a long time, but that's going to help, yeah, help open up the front of the hips as well. Okay. That's a really good one to use. Let's lie down on our back into this. Just a couple more things here on our back. So those muscles we just rolled out, let's see if we could stretch them a bit here with this figure 4 position. The left knee is going to be bent, right ankle is going to cross over that left knee. Let's put some pressure by pressing into that right knee, pushing the thigh away from us. Okay, opening that outer right hip. You can progress it as well. You can thread your right hand through that hole. Okay, grabbing the thigh, pulling the thigh towards you, both thighs towards you. You can get that glute to stretch. Okay, opening through here, letting go. Maybe those hamstrings also get a bit of a stretch. All right, just keeping space, creating space in our hip joints here. Okay. Ooh, that is a deep stretch. All right, and then we'll switch ankles here. So the right knee is going to stay bent, left knee is going to bend. Let's push into that thigh with the left hand to start. Okay, you can kind of explore this range of motion first, and then you can thread your hands through, pull that knee towards you, really opening up that larger portion of the glute here, stretching in this figure 4, just breathing. Okay. You can even rock side to side. Just moving the body within this mobilization here. Stretching, loosening, breathing. Okay. All right. And we'll uncross our legs there. Come on up to seated. So one quick quad stretch here. We're gonna lie on our, so we're gonna have, let's pull our mats to the wall actually. So if you could take your mat, let's bring it right up against the wall here. Okay. So we'll head to the wall, and what we'll do here, we're gonna lie down on our left side facing the wall. Let's stretch our quads out here. So I like to lie on my left arm here, and I'll show everyone online what we're doing. I'll take my left foot up against the baseboard here. Okay, so the bottom leg's on the baseboard, and I'll reach down, I'll grab my right ankle here. Okay, and I'll flex my right ankle. So I'm pulling the toes towards my knee. So it's a deep quadricep stretch. So we focused on the hips, but the quads, one of the quads runs from the hip joint. So it's important that we open up the front of the thighs a bit, okay, to stabilize mobilize our hip. Think of some space between your left side and the floor. Now think of engaging that right glute and take the thigh backwards and relax. Okay, so engage the glute, keep the knee in line with the hip, but try to reach the thigh back behind you and relax. Couple more like that. Glutes might be feeling tired, but try to activate them just one more time here. Bring the thigh back and relax, okay? So Joni, when you do that, try to grab a little higher up on the ankle there and then flex the ankle, okay? That's gonna isolate the quad a little bit more, okay? And then see if you can bend your left knee a bit more and scoot a little closer towards the wall. That's gonna help lock your hip. And then Karen, try to bring your right knee down. So yes, there. Okay, so it's so very much like in a bridging position or a pelvic curl-like position. Activate the glute. That glute's gonna assist that thigh reaching back, okay? So for those online, you want the bottom leg, the knee bent when it's against the floor, against the wall. It's gonna be bent here, pressing to help stabilize the pelvis. You're grabbing the ankle, and then we're extending at the hip, okay? So let's come on up, let's switch sides, all right? I'm gonna lie on our right side now. So that right foot is, I think that foot, line it up with just the area just below your hips. You don't have to bring it super high. Just that the toes line up just below your pelvis there. Let's grab that left knee, or that left ankle, sorry. Flex the ankle, tall in your position. Let's bring that thigh back, active stretch here, and relax. Okay, so we hold on to that ankle there. We activate the glute, bringing the leg behind us and returning. Okay, so really opening up these lateral quadricep muscles. Okay, and returning, bringing the thigh back and returning. So it's going to help not just with hip discomfort or pain, but also low back and knee pain, okay? Activating the glute, that thigh reaches back. So Joni, try to bring the thigh down toward the knee towards the floor, there, and then work straight back instead of up like that. Yes, better, better, better. Reaching, reaching, reaching. Okay. That looks good, Karen. Nice job bringing the thigh back. And let's come on up to standing, okay? Take it slow. All right, see how you feel. Shaking those legs out. We probably loosened quite a bit today. All right. Okay, so we'll integrate all that work. Let's grab our foam roller. Let's practice our squat position here. So let's hold the foam roller in front of us here. I want us to separate our feet about slightly wider than shoulder width, okay? So let's get some weight into the heels. We're standing up tall. Let's keep the spine somewhat vertical. We push the foam roller away from us as the hips reach back, okay? We lower down and then we stand back up, activating those glutes, okay? Inhale, just integrating everything we did today, lowering the hips down to the floor, just practicing our squat. Our feet might be slightly pointed out, okay? Keep the abs in. If you have the half foam roller, it's still on your back here. We're in that neutral. We reach the sit bones back behind us, keeping the chest up, and we straighten up. I'll demonstrate from the side here for our friends online, just noticing how you feel in these squats, looking good. Straightening our legs out, breathing in, hinging at the hips, all the way up to standing, getting that mobility. Wait until we don't put pressure on the ball of our foot so that we don't overload the knees or the quads. There you go, good. Keeping that neutral and then standing up. Let's all do one more squat here to finish. Inhale, you can check that your knees are looking really good there, Karen. Not letting our knees pull in or too far out, okay? And we'll finish there with our hip series, okay? Any questions with any of that we went through, okay? Yeah, so you can use a TRX, you can use the foam roller, all right? Really focusing on loading the hip joints in our squat, okay? We don't want to load our spine or our knees, and we do that by loading our hips while maintaining that neutral alignment in our spine, okay? So thinking of that foam roller on our spine, we're doing everything we can to maintain that position as we squat, okay? Hinging back, lower down, driving up to standing, okay? All right, everyone. No questions. We'll finish there for the day. We've got, I don't know if you're signed up for both, okay? We've got more material next week, okay? Thank you for joining, everyone.